Happy New Year! It's 2023. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it because I'm just sitting here thinking back to when I first set United Art Space up, and it was actually back in 2012, late 2012. And I set it up as a physical studio space back in those days and made big mistakes, lost loads of money. And looking back now, I can't believe that I got to this point, more than 10 years on, going into the 11th year now. And I remember when I first set up United Art Space, it was because I was so desperate to be around community. I had studied fine art and had spent 6 years studying, and I'd had a studio at university, and I really missed being around the other students. I missed being in an art studio. I really missed being in my studio, having my own space and shouting over to the artist next to me, like, what do you think of this color? And I really did miss that. And that's why when I graduated, I couldn't get a job. And it's really interesting now looking back, and that's what I wanted to share with some of the lessons that I've learned along the way in this episode today. Because when I look back now, there are so many times where I have felt that things have just not gone the right way and felt so despondent and disappointed and thinking, my gosh, that didn't work out, did it? And then hindsight is such an amazing thing, because then I look back and think, well, that taught me so much back at that point that has influenced where I've gone today and has helped me avoid situations it's just the dots add up. There's a Steve Jobs quote from years ago where he says that you have to trust that the dots of your life add up. And something that feels like it was really wrong, a failure, or maybe just even insignificant, and you don't really understand why did that happen, can have such an influence on your future that hasn't happened yet. So you might not make sense of it now, but in 5 years' time, you're going to go, oh my gosh, right, now I see why that happened. And Steve Jobs talked about that in terms of quitting university and his family being completely in uproar about it, and walking past it was like I can't remember how he described it now, but going past a building with a billboard outside saying typography lessons, and randomly just thought, I'm going to go and do a typography course. And everyone's like, why on earth would you go and do typography? Like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing with your life? And I love that story, and I'll never forget it, because other people's opinions can really derail us sometimes. And, for other people, that might be a completely bonkers thing to do, to just go and give up on this amazing course and go and do a typography course where other people can't see, where is that taking you? What is that going to lead to? Where is that going to get you? What's the point in doing that? And I think in the arts, that happens a lot. People disregard the arts so much because they're afraid of, if my child goes off and explores their creativity, what is that going to do for them? How's that going to make them money? How's that going to help them when they get in the real world? And so that story I do love, because he went and did it anyway, despite everybody's views on what the point of doing a typography course is or was. And well, it then led to be the typography for Apple and one of the most iconic brands in the world. So that story of trusting the process, trusting the dots add up, really tapping into your intuition, what feels right, I think is something I'm leaning into more and more as a person, and definitely going into next year. I've started to really notice my intuition. And when I notice it, actually, it's in my tummy. When something feels right, I feel it inside, and I feel a tingling sensation, like tiny little butterflies in my tummy, like, yes, this is right. As opposed to the anxiousness I feel in my shoulders. That's when I know if I'm making a decision, that whether it's the right or wrong decision. And I'm learning that more and more, despite everybody else's views on, why would you do that? You've come this far. Why would you do that? Where is that going to take you? And that's something I'm, definitely leading into, that trusting the process, because you never know where things will lead. And when I look back to setting up the physical studio space, and it was it wasn't a complete flop. It was a beautiful 12 months in that studio. And actually, it was a real privilege to have that space, because it was a beautiful space steeped in history. It was in the Iron Bridge area, where the first ever iron bridge in the world was built, and it was beautiful. And so I got to spend my time there and learn and have other artists around me, and we set up a space. It was very expensive. I didn't ever make any money at all. But you know what? I look back now and I survived. I didn't make any money, but I survived. I don't know how I did. And I learned heaps, and I learned about what I like and what I don't like. And that carried me forwards into the future. And then in between that, I had babies. And then I then took it online, and I've learned so much from being online as well. And looking back, even before that, I worked in offices for a lot of my early 20s, and then I started to work in a design team. That's when I entered the creative industry. So I worked in business for 10 years, working in procurement, working in sales, just floating around anywhere I could get a job. I was just floating. And I remember then being in a retailer, and we were based in the head office, and there was this just big, massive open space office with 150 people in it. It was huge. And it was the trading floor where all the buyers were. And I was in the music team back then. So I used to work in the music team, and I was part of the buying team, and we would work with all the big labels and bring in the albums, because that's what we used to sell in the store. And I used to be the administrator. I'd be setting up all the new music and the new videos coming out. And it was a really fun, cool job, actually. Really crap pay, but it was really fun, because we used to get invited to premieres of new films coming out, and we used to get to go to the Brit Awards. So I've been to the Brit Awards a few times. It was so cool. But I remember being in that role, and I got to a certain point where, novelty wore off, and in the corner of this trading floor was this really peculiar team of designers, 3 designers, and they would have all these mood boards on the walls, and everybody wanted to be in that team because it was just creative and really lovely. And I remember sitting there one day, looking over, getting a bit bored of just crunching numbers, putting all the new albums in a computer system, and I was like, oh. And I remember looking over thinking, I want to be in that team, and everybody wanted to be in that team. But I look back now, and I didn't understand manifesting and visualization and all of that stuff back then, but I realized that that's what I was doing inadvertently. I set my sights on that department, and I thought, I want to do something creative. And it was interesting, because at that time I'd been diagnosed with dyslexia, and I was reading a book, so it was definitely on my radar about being more creative, because the books kept saying dyslexic people are creative. And I was like, I'm not creative. Why am I not creative? I have dyslexia. Why am I not creative? And that made me really question, why am I not creative? Because I was when I was a child. Where did it go? And I realized in that moment, I've lost my creativity. I hadn't even realized that I'd lost it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I think it was just, I was tapped in to ways of being more creative. And that team was really on my radar. And I remember then going to art classes, and that's where I started to then transition into the creative industries. And I really just set my sights on that team, and I kept imagining myself. I would just sit daydreaming, imagining myself in their team, laughing, putting up boards, going through magazines, and I started to put wheels into motion, and I would go over and I talked to them, and I got really friendly then with the lady who ran the team. And then it was, I think, 3-4 months later, a job came up, and I went for it. And because I'd built a relationship up with them, they gave me the job. I had no experience. I was like, oh my gosh. So that was kind of one of my first realizations around, I made this happen. This is not a coincidence, because before that, everything seemed to be coincidental. And I realized this isn't coincidence. I am making these things happen. And then that was my entry into the creative industries. And I spent years then in a design team. We developed products for homewares, and we would travel around the world looking at trends and um, developing products and buying designs from designers. And we had an in-house design team, and I would create vision boards for the trends coming up and gathering ideas. Oh my gosh, it was like the most cool job. It was so amazing. And we used to, that's where I learned really about color, because we would have to color match products and learn tonal values and things like that. And so I stayed there for a while, but then I hit the ceiling there, and I could never move because I didn't have a design qualification. I didn't have any qualifications in art. I just learned how to be creative with the team of creatives. And so I could not progress. And then I found myself stuck. And it was frustrating, and I loved the job, but I couldn't earn any more money because I was capped at that level. Because I didn't have a qualification. So then in that moment, that's when I thought, I'm going to go on a sabbatical, and I'm going to go to art school. And I did this later in life. I think I was 28 or 29. And I don't know how I made it happen. I just handed my notice in and I just did it. I lived on baked beans on toast for a long time, and I cut everything back. I even at one point had to move back in with my parents because I totally ran out of money, and my student loans, I was spending them on traveling rather than living. I went to Africa with one of my student loans. This is not advice, by the way. This is me reflecting. But so anyway, and I guess the point of all this reflection is to share that, in those moments, my goal back then was to go and study a degree so that I could go back and be promoted within that team. And actually leaving and then exploring the art world, I realized that I wanted to do fine art and just explore that side of myself and be a painter and pour art out of myself every day for 8 hours a day some days. And again, I spent years then studying art and gave up a great job in a great company, and the sabbatical came to an end, and I just said, I'm not coming back. I'm still studying, because I did my foundation in art, then I did my degree, and then I went on and moved back with my parents so I could finish my degree. That was interesting. And and then after all of that, I couldn't get a job. And I remember so many people saying to me, oh, are you a bit sad now that you studied art? You spent all this time studying art. I remember these conversations very well. Are you regretting it now? And I'd be like, no, I'm not regretting it. And then in my back of my mind thinking, am I regretting it? Should I be regretting it? Have I just spent 6 years flushing my life down the drain when I had an amazing job and I could have probably been promoted now? And especially because I studied fine art as opposed to design, where I could have gone back. I mean, they probably would have had me in that team, but it was very different creative thinking. I'd gone down the fine art route, and when you've studied fine art, when I was applying for jobs, people are just not interested. And I was, in the end, looking at getting a job in a factory. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was kind of demoralizing after spending that long studying and having given up the career. to then be thinking, gosh, I'm going to end up stacking shelves here. Wow, this has not turned out the way I thought it would. Anyway, this is a complete and utter ramble, but that's when I then set up United Art Space. So that's how it ended up. I graduated and I missed being in a community. And the reason for this long ramble is that throughout my life now, I've realized that I've delved and shelved a lot. And there's been lots of chapters, like there will be in your life, lots of chapters where doors closes and another one opens. And it's in those moments of closure and something new and us transitioning that we delve and shelve. And by that, I mean really taking stock of what did I like from that job? What did I like from the studying and spending 6 years? And for me, and now I realize that was what I was doing. When I was in that job, I was like, I'm bored. I love being in this arena. I'm bored doing this. I want to be there. I want to be creative. I have dyslexia. I want to be creative. I want to let this creative monster out of me. And I was like, right, how am I going to do this? And I'm going to network with these people and I'm going to get in that team. And I was determined and I made it happen. And it's no coincidence. And this is why I want to share Best Year Yet with you. And I'm excited to do Best Year Yet. If you're not signed up, sign up now. It starts on the 5th, on Thursday. Because this is what we do. This is designing our own lives, picking things that we want to carry forwards into our life so that we can explore even more or navigate towards a new adventure. I don't know. Life can take you anywhere. And when I look back now, the reason I got to the point of setting United Art Space up was because when I graduated and I was really struggling to get a job, it felt like the end of the world. And I was questioning the whole degree thing. I was questioning my life and I felt like a failure because I also, at that point, all my friends had amazing jobs. They all were earning loads of money. And I was there. I couldn't even get a job. I was struggling to get a job packing boxes. And I was like, what have I done to my life? What have I done? I'm like such a ridiculous person. That's how I felt back then. And again, it's the trust the dots. Trust the dots. We are going to have down points. We're going to have up points. We're going to have points when we're all over the place. And it's beautiful hindsight, isn't it, to look back now? Because now I realize I'm so glad that I did not get any of those jobs. I am so glad, because if I'd have got those jobs that I was applying for that I would have hated, I wouldn't have had the inclination to go, okay, what did I miss? What do I want in my life? What did I miss from art school? I miss community. And that was my drive. Community, community, community. I also missed making art. And that was the one reason why I wanted to find a studio, because I really missed making. And I was like, I want to find a space. But then actually, when I started to really think about it, it wasn't just a space. It wasn't just me being on my own that I wanted. I wanted people, because every time I kept trying to find a space, I was like, but there's no one really around. Then I was like, okay, this isn't just about a space. It's about people. And I was in that moment, like, I want to be around a community. I want community. Just knowing that was the starting point then of me setting up a studio. I got a grant, I got given a building, I got given space all around the UK for free from a studio provider, all from just setting the intention of being around community in the beginning, and then setting sail. And all of that happened. And it's not coincidence. I made it happen, and you can too. And that's why I'm excited to run Best Year Yet with you, because when you get clear on where you're going, the red car, you start to see the opportunities. You start to have conversations with the right people, the people that then can just give you a space. And I'm like, what? You're just going to give me a space? Yeah, we are. And I'm like, mind blown. Whereas if you sit there thinking, oh, I really want a studio space, but you add up your outgoings, it's never going to happen. I can't afford it. Disregard it, move on, I'm going to go and do the washing now. You never make it happen. If you plant that seed and nurture it and water it and speak to people and keep attending to it and you keep saying it, I want a space, I want a space, I want a studio space, it will happen. You'll make it happen. Just like I was like, I want to be in that team. I want to be in that team. I made it happen. And so getting clear on the things that you want, and then the trick in this is getting it all to the surface and then bringing it down to a few things that you want in the year. Because if you try and aim for loads of things like I did at the beginning of last year with the book and the hiking, you quickly discover that you can't have everything in one go. If you can figure that one out, let me know. But the reality is, when we condense it down to a few things, and that's why in Best Year Yet we whittle things down to 3. And it doesn't sound a lot, but if those 3 are important and you can make them happen, then 3 the year after. It's the difference between going over a 5-year period, achieving nothing or getting nowhere and still having the same goals, to actually moving forwards year after year after year. So there we go. I just wanted to end as well on a positive note to remind you all of our mantra, which is you matter, art matters, your art matters. And I want to just reinforce that message before I leave today as we start in the new year, to really remind you that you have a voice. Your voice matters. We care about your voice. And I'm not just saying that, we do. Myself and the team, that's what strives us to do what we do. We love sharing information with you to help you find your own voice through art, and to have the courage to bring that to the surface. When we share stories behind the scenes, but also publicly, we're always looking at stories from our members and community going, oh my gosh, look at this person's just said. And that fuels our fire to carry on running United Art Space, because honestly, to be able to help people bring their confidence and their art and their voice to the surface, and then put that out into the world and find people and connect art with people and spread the art around the world and sell it and actually make some money from it. And you think, oh my gosh, that to us is everything. And we want to remind you that you have a place, because in today's can be toxic, overwhelming world, you can lose sight of that. We can feel intimidated by putting ourselves out in the world. We can be fearful of what other people might say about us. And there's a place for you to be yourself, and you can carve out a safe space in the world. You can. And there will be people that don't like what you do, and that's okay. Learning how to deal with that is so, so important, so that you can be yourself. Because who else do you want to be? There's no point. You've got to love yourself, love every part of you, acknowledge where you are right now in your life and accept that and love that, and be like, yeah, this is who I am, this is where I am. And it might not be where you are, or where you want to be rather, but it's about acknowledging it now and being happy with this moment, and using the best year yet to strive forwards in whatever direction you want, but knowing that you have everything that you need right now. You really do. And I want you to know that you are enough. Thank you so much. I hope you have the most amazing 2023, and I can't wait to hear your stories that you share throughout the year with us. And I hope to see you in the workshops. Please sign up to grab your place if you haven't done so already, and take care, my friends. Bye-bye.